Hey, what's up, everybody? It's the Mad Fientist. I have a new spreadsheet for you today, and if you've followed the blog for a while, you know that the PHI spreadsheet is one that I shared quite a while ago, and lots of people have downloaded it. And this was my personal spreadsheet that I used on my path to financial independence. And if you haven't used it and you want to check it out, you can head to madfientist.com/spreadsheet, and you can download it there and obviously learn how to use it with this page. If you are familiar with it, you know that it is quite detailed and a bit time consuming to enter your data into every month. And that was great for when I was saving for financial independence because I wanted to, track how much I was spending on certain categories. And then I wanted to see how many years to FI that would cost me to continue having that expense. So it was very useful back in the day. But now that I've achieved financial independence, I find that it's a bit too time consuming, and it also has a bit too much detail because as someone who is naturally very frugal, I still find myself making decisions based purely on money when I should be thinking of other things like time or happiness or health and things like that. So I thought to myself, maybe I should just stop tracking altogether, and then that way I'm not as focused on the money aspect of everything. Well, I tried that a little bit last year, and I did not like not tracking at all. It was very weird to me after spending so much of my life tracking. So I really missed it. But I wanted to change it up this year. So I was just about to enter my January data into my spreadsheet for the new year, and I realized, hey, this is a perfect opportunity to create a whole new spreadsheet from scratch. So that is what I've done, and I'm calling it the PostFIRE Spreadsheet. And even though it is useful for post-FIRE life, you could use it before achieving financial independence if you wanted to, and it would be useful, just maybe not as useful as the PHI spreadsheet is. So the first tab here on the spreadsheet is just the instructions, and it links to the website where you can get these instructions in written form, and a link to this video, and a link to download the spreadsheet. So the first real tab is the holdings tab, and the whole goal of redesigning my spreadsheet was so that I could really minimize the amount of time I spend entering data every month. So my hope was that I could get everything I needed from one view of my personal capital dashboard. And if you haven't signed up to Personal Capital yet and you're in the United States, you can head to madfientist.com/personal, and you can sign up for a free account there. And if you're outside the United States, sadly, you won't be able to use it, but hopefully there's an equivalent piece of software that you could use that, aggregates all of your accounts and gives you totals of everything you have. And that'll just make it a lot easier for you to enter this data in. So like I said, I just wanted to have one dashboard to look at and then the minimum number of numbers to input, and then it would hopefully give me everything that I need to keep an eye on. So this is where you enter that data. So if you go into Personal Capital, when you log in, you can see on the left-hand side, it tells you your net worth and then your assets and liabilities, but it also groups into cash, investments, and credit. And this is the first thing that you need to enter. So you can take the cash number from here and the credit number from here, and you can just pop them into these fields. And then the rest of the things you have to enter are your investments. So if we close this down, we can then see that when you log in up in the toolbar, you can see investments and then holdings. So when you click that, it'll take you to this page. And if you scroll down here, you can see that all of your holdings are displayed, the shares that you own, and then the price of those shares. So that is exactly these numbers. So you would just go through, and what I've done is I've sorted it. These are dummy numbers, but in my spreadsheet, I've sorted it based on the highest value there. And then when you go into Personal Capital, you can just click the total value column, and it'll sort it in the same ways so that you're entering the data in the same order that your spreadsheet is. So once you enter your data here, and as you can see, these are green shaded boxes, and that just indicates that that's a number that you can change. Everything that's not green shaded is automatically calculated. So you enter your numbers here, and then those numbers get collected on the allocation page. So it automatically tallies up your asset allocation. And for me, I've split this into 5 portfolio and cash. But if you're saving for other things, you can have little extra categories here, or just rename this. I think in my personal one, it's actually named real estate fund because my wife and I are probably going to buy a house at some point over the next year. So that's renamed on my spreadsheet, but you can add and edit columns to your heart's content. And that's why spreadsheets are so fun, because you can just tailor them to exactly your situation. And then it also just tallies up your asset allocation into the major groupings that you would want. And again, you can change these. So this page, you don't actually edit anything. This is just a way of quickly glancing at your allocation. If we go over to the summary, this is where all the good stuff happens. So as you can see, there's only 2 things that you enter on this page. So if you had any income coming in for the month, you would enter it here. And if you took any of your income and you invested it, so if you maybe bought some shares in your taxable account, or if you made a Roth IRA contribution, or you put some money into your solo 401k, things like that, that is the value you would enter here. And I'll explain why this is important. And let's go back to the holdings page. So the way it works is it assumes that any increase in shares is either reinvested dividends or it is you buying more shares. So in order to calculate how much dividends got reinvested, it is important to know if you actually bought any shares with your normal checking account money or whatever. So that's how that works, that field out. And then it also automatically updates the appreciation, and the way it figures that out is it takes all of your investments and it just decides, anything that's not a reinvested dividend or new money, it uses the difference between this month's and last month's totals in order to figure out how much your investments appreciated. And then a similar thing is used for your expenses and savings. So it knows how much money you've brought in, it knows how much you've transferred to your investments, and it knows how much you have left over by comparing your net worth between the 2 months. So then from that, it can figure out how much you've saved and how much you've spent that month. So since it calculates everything based on the previous month's data, the summary page isn't going to actually show anything meaningful until you get 2 months worth of information in there. And so really that's it. You don't have to enter anything else. It'll calculate, how much you've invested. Well, yeah, you enter how much you've invested. It'll calculate your monthly expenses and then annualize them so you can see how much you're averaging over the year and how much total you're spending. It'll track how much you've saved over the years. It'll track how many distributions you've had. And, if you're somebody who's really conservative and only wants to live off of, dividends or something, then you can track that here and figure out how much every year that you're getting in dividends. And it also tracks your portfolio appreciation. And then on the summary page, it also calculates things like savings rate, which, if you're post-FI, maybe you're not bringing in income, but if you're using this pre-retirement, then obviously you will be. So savings rate's going to be an important thing. And then before we move on to these other numbers, it is worth mentioning that the safe withdrawal rate can be set on the Miscellaneous tab. So as you can see right now, it's set to 3.5%. And if you're signed up to the Mad Fientist Laboratory, then you could go to calculators and safe withdrawal rate, and you can see that it says that 3.5% is the estimated withdrawal rate based on the current Shiller Cape ratio of 34.37. So you can see it's all the way down here because valuations are quite high now. So this is just an estimate, so definitely take these numbers with a grain of salt, but it gives you a good indication of what could be a good safe withdrawal rate based on the current market scenario. So I just put 3.5% in here, and these other pieces of information are carried over from the old PHI spreadsheet, and it's just stuff that I wanted to keep track of. So in this example scenario, it looks like this person had $2,000 worth of medical expenses that they haven't yet withdrawn that money from their HSA. So that means that at any point they can do that. And if you want to learn more about that strategy, you can go to my Ultimate Retirement Account article, which I'll link to below this video as well. And also, this person looks like they've contributed $5,500 to their Roth IRA, which means that that contribution could be withdrawn at any time. So these are just things from the last spreadsheet that are worth keeping track of so that you know what you're able to withdraw and when. So to go back to the summary screen, you'll also see that there's a calculation here that tells you what is the amount that you could have withdrawn from your portfolio this month based on that withdrawal rate that you set on the miscellaneous tab. And it also shows you the difference in spending. So it looks like this person overspent by $676. So maybe they aren't PHI yet, but it just gives you an idea of if you're on track with your spending based on what you had hoped to withdraw from your portfolio. And then the total early retirement income takes that portfolio withdrawable amount and adds it to your income for the month. So that's your total ER income, and then it gives you a difference. So it looks like actually this person is okay. So maybe they are PHI, they're just relying on some supplemental income, and they could have actually spent $4,000 more this month. And that takes us to the final tab, which is the Rebalance tab. And this is one that I just put together during all the craziness of COVID. And it was sort of a way for me to set boundaries for myself so that even if I feel extremely bearish, then I don't stray too far from my actual allocation. So this is like how I can calculate my bookends and stay within my own boundaries. So the only things you update on this screen are the settings over here, which hopefully you'll just think about and set once. And you can see that this person has a PHI portfolio of 983,000. And I guess, maybe they know their spending needs a portfolio of 900,000 to sustain their early retirement. So they definitely don't want to get below 900,000. They also have this cash cushion, so maybe that for them is, 6 months of living expenses, so they definitely want to keep that much, but they also don't want to get too much. They don't want to be over 20% of their portfolio in cash because cash drag will really decrease their returns. So those are the two sides of that equation. And then when you go down here for the different asset types, you can see U.S. stocks, international stocks, bonds. And for this person, they're wanting to target a 68, 20, 12 portfolio, but they're happy to, give a little bit on each side depending on what the market's doing. And again, so their most bearish portfolio would look like this, and it uses all these figures to calculate what you would do if you were feeling very scared. And this one is if you're feeling like, oh, this economy is going to be amazing and feeling very bullish, you could use this allocation instead. If you wanted to do a full rebalance, which means, selling stocks to buy other ones, or selling bonds to buy stocks or whatever, you could use this allocation and it tells you what you would need to do. So in this case, you would sell that much US stocks, you would buy this much international stocks, and you would buy this many bonds. And that would give you your exact target allocation. Some people like myself don't really like selling things. So anytime new cash comes in, just use that instead for no sell rebalancing. And hopefully you just get closer and closer to your allocation. You may not be able to hit it in 1 month, depending on how much income you have. But in this case, it does look like this person would be able to get back to the target allocation, which is set here. But it looks like they would get below their minimum cash balance that they wanted. So maybe they wouldn't do that and would instead just buy a little bit of international stocks and maybe even less of bonds just to get closer to the allocation. So that is everything. This is way easier to update every month. I've only done 1 month of updating, so I am excited to do next month's to see how it all works. But yeah, the summary is pretty much everything I'm going to need because I just want to make sure that, my expenses aren't getting out of control. I don't really care if I'm spending more on groceries this month than I was last month because I feel like everything in that sense is dialed down. Like my expenses are pretty tight and I have a good idea of, what I'm spending every month. So really I just care about if the expenses are lower than portfolio withdrawable amount or the total ER income and very minimal data input, which was the point. So let me know what you think in the comments of the post or this video. And if you have any other suggestions to make this spreadsheet better, let me know, because I'll probably do a version 2 at some point. And yeah, that's everything. So I hope you enjoy it. Thanks for watching.